So this is my Unreal project that I worked on. Mine was completely based in VR. I ended up using a cube grid to create the walls, and then another cube grid to create the floors, and just deleted most of the initial environment. If you look around, it's still the base template. And I set it up. The things that I managed to get done, because setting this up in VR proved to be a lot bigger challenge than I thought, because there is not a lot of documentation about making a project in VR. There's a ton of documentation for later in VR when you have animations and stuff like that, but it's hard to get all of the information that you need initially for setting up blueprints with things like without animations and stuff. So I ended up having to go pretty bare bones with what I actually was able to focus on and get done. So what's in the game currently, there is an environment that you can walk around with, and you do not walk through walls. There is a weapon that can be picked up that will snap to your hand at a particular location. There is an enemy that will move towards the player no matter where they are, and they can go through walls because they're supposed to be ghosts. So for now, they just push straight through walls. They do not interact with the player outside of blocking, so if I run into one, it just pushes me backwards. And if I interact with the sword and hit them with the sword, they will disappear. They take damage. Then there was a few issues which I'll show in VR that I was having. But let me set up the headset. Okay. Oh god, I can't find the button. There it is. Okay. So, oh, hello lag. Hands. Sword. Sword snaps to your hands. Can smack objects. The biggest issue that I was having with this sword, you don't notice it if I hold it out in front of me, but if I put it close to me and try to walk, nothing happens. I just move occasionally. It'll block all movement in a forward direction because for some reason it has a collider even though it's turned off, and it's something I figured out with the movement. In base VR with the template, the movement is teleportation based, so it's snap turn with teleportation with the left hand, so you'll pick a spot to teleport to and you'll move there. I didn't want that, so I worked on making locomotion to where if I press a direction, I'll move in that direction using input maps, and rotation along the X and Y also using an input map, 2D vector, or one vector and a 2D vector for movement. But for some reason with that, it makes it so it forces collisions with certain objects because of overlap, and I couldn't figure out how to fix that. So if I would put the sword underneath me, it has full collision, and I'll start flying. I tried setting collisions, it didn't work. I just said screw it, and just instead of the snap being here, I moved it down. That way I can still move. There's full locomotion, there's no damage. And the map itself, I set up to be just too high to where you can't see over it, but it's pretty big. It's a massive map with a lot of twists and turns. There was supposed to be, if I had time to figure it out, I was going to set up spawners around the map, but unfortunately I just didn't have time to get instantiated enemies to work that way. But that's pretty much it. I'm just impressed that I was able to get any sort of a VR game that will run and actually let me move around in anything. It was a long process. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Right, hits it. Hold on. There we go.